My name is Rick Renner. This is part 4 in a series on how to deal with stress. And of course, when you deal with the issue of stress, you're also dealing with anxiety, fret, worry. All of that is tied up together in stress. And we've been looking at 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 7. And I want us to read that again. It says, casting all your care. We've seen that word care describes anything that concerns you. It has to do with anxiety, worry, stress, fear, fret. All of that is tied up in this word cares. Casting all your cares on Him because He cares for you. That is so amazing to me. Because that word cares, He cares for you, is exactly the same word for worry, anxiousness, fret. But in that particular case, it's used in a positive way. It would rarely be used positive. But in this case, it's the picture of Jesus loving us so much. Jesus wanting to help us so much that He's hovering over us, longing to help us in a certain way. Jesus is anxious to know how He can bless us. He's worrying how to do something for us. He's hovering over us, caring for us, wanting us to respond by transferring our weight over onto Him. But what happens if you don't do that? What happens if you don't give your weight to Jesus? What happens if you decide, I'm just going to carry this by myself? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to you. I have experienced it. And it's described in the very first statement of the next verse. Listen to what it says in verse 8. Be sober. Then Peter continues, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. But he begins in verse 8 by saying, be sober. The Greek word would be better translated, think straight, not like a silly drunk. Think straight, not like a silly drunk, which means, it means stress, worry, anxiety in the negative sense has an inebriating effect. It has an inebriating effect. That's why he says, think straight, not like a silly drunk. Well, what happens when you get drunk? When you get drunk, your emotions are exaggerated. When you get drunk, you say things that you normally would never say. When a person is drunk, he acts in ways that he would never normally act. Why? Because he's under the influence, and under the influence, he doesn't behave as he would normally behave. Likewise, when you're under the weight, under the burden of worry, fear, stress, anxiety, it has an inebriating effect on you. Think of those times when you've been carrying those heavy loads and you can't think straight. It doesn't matter what anyone says to you, you can't see the positive about anything. It looks like it is the end. And even though logically people are speaking to you, you can't really hear or receive what is logically spoken to you because your mind is so warped by what you're carrying. You're not seeing things right. You know, as Denise and I love each other, walk with each other, and help each other, we've learned through the years in moments like that just to say, sweetheart, you're not seeing things right. You need to walk away from this. You need to leave this alone. You need to commit this to the Lord, not talk about it, get away from it, because right now you're on a downward spiral. You're not thinking right. And you see, that's what worry, fret, anxiety, and stress does. It never takes you higher. It always takes you lower. And Peter refers to it as a kind of a drunken stupor. Now think back to your own life, the times that you've been worried. How many times have you been worried about something, and in the context of that worry, you've said something you wish you hadn't said. You have said something mean to somebody else. You've been accusing. Why? Because you're under such tension, such pressure. You're inebriated by what you're feeling. And Peter says, hey friends, this is not helpful. Get rid of it. Cast it over on Jesus and think straight. Think straight, not like a silly drunk. Now, you know when you're thinking wrong. You know that. When your thoughts are racing out of control, you can hardly even go to sleep at night because your mind won't be quiet. That's the moment for you just to raise your hands and say, Jesus, no, I'm not going to operate like this. It's not right to me. It's not right to the people that I'm affecting around me. I'm just like a tornado. I'm stirring up stuff everywhere I go. And Lord, I am determined to be a blessing. I'm not going to do this. So here I come, Jesus, and push, heave, transfer all of that over onto the back of Jesus. And if you have to do it 1,000 times, do it until it's done. The last thing I do every night before I go to bed, the last thing I do is I raise my hands and I say, Jesus, I give you everything. I lift my arms to you, Lord, as an evening sacrifice. I thank you that you have been faithful. Great is your faithfulness. You have been faithful to me today. And Lord, I know when I wake up in the morning, you will greet me with your loving kindness and your tender mercies. That's a choice for me to do that. But it's so healthy because it enables me to think straight. When we come back to part number 5, we're going to talk about why you need to be vigilant. The verse continues to say, be sober, be vigilant. Be vigilant about what? We'll see when we come back.